So this is just a little video about a fragrance called Lucrethia, and that's from V Canto Tiziani. Basically, I've gone for one from the red line, and I was influenced from watching videos from people such as Tom Elise, Yana. It just kind of sounded up my street, and I didn't know what to expect from it. It gets compared an awful lot to Yves Saint Laurent's Black Opium, which is a fragrance I kind of absolutely love, as you know. And I thought, well, I need to find a good setting to kind of do a video to. It's all about, was it Lucrethia Borgia, who's quite an infamous lady who made poisons and charmed men with her charm, and obviously they were quite a famous family back in the day. Obviously one of them became a pope. Pretty sort of that time period's gangster kind of family. So that's what the fragrance is apparently influenced by. And basically that sold it to me, that and the similarities. So anyway, yeah, what was it actually like? So what it opens with is a quite beautiful pear, like a syrup, you know what I mean, like a syrup pear, like a pear that's been kind of stewed in some sugared water. It's gorgeous, almost like a pear drop sweet. And also what you get quite early on coming through, for me anyway, is the vanilla, and then that pink pepper. That pink pepper just gives it a lovely kind of warm, spicy touch. A little bit of sharpness just to tingle the nose, and it works very well with it. And also, as it settles a bit more, you get more of that jasmine coming through. It's not, well, again, it gets compared to Black Opium, so it's not overly kind of floral. It's like a dark floral, isn't it? The coffee's always an interesting one, because I don't really get much of that in Black Opium. I'll stop comparing it, but you know what I mean. It's there's a little bit of darkness. It's like a creamy latte with it all. And this is all kind of the first 5 minutes or so. As you kind of get into the mids, it doesn't overly change. The kind of fresh poppiness does move back. The pink pepper still kind of lingers on for me, but it becomes more about the benzoin and that kind of warm, dark, vanillic kind of feel. There's little bits of musk, I think, do start to come through, but basically it's kind of this dark, still fruity slightly from the pear, kind of dark, seductive, kind of beautiful, intoxicating fragrance. Now, won't get too much into the story that's behind the creation of the fragrance, but it is it's comforting, but it's also one of them that kind of brings you in. It's nothing wildly extravagant or new or not, but it's just so well done. And apparently this is an extrait, so it is close to the skin. Well, that's by the by. It's not what I'm talking about. It is kind of a thicker, kind of a creamy blend, and it does kind of stick to you. It is just very beautiful. It does make you think of maybe again somebody wearing all black, like a black lace dress, black hair, a little blue bow in that hair, or a man in a black suit, and it just kind of, not quite vampirical, but it does have that kind of intoxicating danger where they draw you in. Maybe more of the devil kind of scent, because he's warmly kind of inviting and gets you drawn in. If anyone recognises this little bit, it's where Harry Potter was, some of Harry Potter was filmed. Anyway, that's by the by. I'll go into a bit of the history after it, but the fragrance, yeah, it's very warm, it's very beautiful with that darkness, and it is I absolutely adore it. It is one I'm very glad to have bought. So next I'll kind of talk about the dry down and so yeah, there's not much to say about the kind of dry down. It just stays that warm, sweet, dark, vanillic kind of slightly musky, benzoin-y, vanilla-y kind of fragrance. You don't, again, I don't really get much coffee in it or anything else. So in conclusion, yeah, of course I'm glad I bought this. And does it kind of smell like black opium? Yeah, yeah, it does. There are subtle differences. It's not exactly the same. You could kind of see it as being a kind of extrait flanker of the original or something. It's much smoother. It's very enjoyable, but it has that essence about it. It I am really glad I bought it because I love that DNA. This was a bit of a struggle to get because it's not available in the UK, and it's not possible to get stuff imported from Italy at the moment, I don't think, without massive charges anyway. So I got this off Fragrance X, and I will link them actually for anybody interested in the UK because they do sell quite a few of them, and it was a good price. And yeah, so I'm glad I bought it. And yeah, it's a very lovely fragrance. It's worth probably what I paid for it. It's not much more than actually Black Opium at retail, but yeah, it was good. Now, no, this is nothing to do with fragrance, but I just thought I'd put it on the end. Quite a short, brief video, wasn't it? And yeah, probably in hindsight should have been done around the cathedral as well. But just thought I'd talk briefly about the kind of history of the cathedral because it is a beautiful kind of thing up here. So work started on it in the 11th century by the Normans. However, previously what was there was called the White Church, and this was where St Cuthbert's body lay in rest. The monks of Lindisfarne had carried it there, and the reason again it was picked there was because obviously the monks were fleeing from Lindisfarne because of the Vikings, etc., and they carried his body, and the monks were following these milk lady people who had some dun cows, and where the cow sat down is where they founded the city of Dunelm, Durham Cow Castle, I believe, isn't it, or something like that, or cow settlement, and that's where Durham was born. But yes, they then built that church round where St Cuthbert's body was. And the Normans, when they invaded the UK, they obviously, the reason the cathedrals existed, however you look at it, was kind of to imprint their awe and suppress the local population through these massive monuments. It was finished in the 12th century, so it took about 100 years. And this was after the harrying of the north, which is where William the Conqueror massacred, I think it was 4/5 of the entire population of northern England. So we didn't rebel again. Very kind and nice of him, which is why basically that there's lots of the population in the north is much lower than that the south still to this very day. But anyway, that's going off on one. The cathedral now kind of sits up at the top looking over Durham. I'll stick some pictures in. Over the River Wear, which was an important transportation route through all of history really, and was nearly very much an important trade route. However, they chose Newcastle instead because of its proximity to the sea. But anyway, that's going off on another one. That was the Industrial Revolution. Next to the cathedral is a castle, which was obviously built to protect the cathedral and the city, and it is quite beautiful. It's gone through lots of changes and transitions, and it's how back in them days, over 1,000 years ago, they could build such an awesome structure is mind-boggling. Obviously slave labour, lots of deaths of people just being used, but if you think about that with every building, you can't enjoy them, can you? It is a beautiful monument. It's not as big as York Minster, which is down the road, but I believe this one's earlier than it, and it was the seat of, basically the bishops were princes and earls in the early days. Like, it was a seat of the kind of northern rulers, if you like, and that's why County Durham is known as the land of the Prince Bishops, because they were basically like kings of the north, to kind of watch over the people up here. That's why the bishops had such a high title. There have been many famous bishops of Durham, one of which, when I was growing up, I remember specifically said he didn't necessarily believe all the stories in the Bible were kind of stories about, you know, more than fact, and he also said he couldn't understand why gay people weren't welcome into the Church of England. So he was a very progressive, moving forward one. And more recently, Justin Welby, who is the Archbishop of Canterbury now, he also served as Bishop of Durham. So yeah, it's quite a historic site, and it is beautiful. It really is. Been there many times. The castle, on the other hand, is now University Halls of Residence, so it's not really open to the public. But there's museums around the cathedral. Well, our museum. You could go have a look at some historic artifacts in there. And also, it was where little scenes in Harry Potter were filmed. So all in all, it's a beautiful building. Anyway, I'm waffling on. That's just kind of a brief kind of history and look at Durham Cathedral to anyone who's interested. Right, thanks folks, bye.